Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to welcome you to this year's 2020 Lead Men's Conference titled Relentless Pursuit. It's a great honor to be part of this year's conference. Last year, 2019, I was part of the Lead Men's Conference in Cameroon with title Intentional Leadership. And it was a very interesting conference because it was about putting the lead on men's leadership in the family. And I was very privileged to share a lot of things which I believe there are many people who benefited from. I did benefited from because putting yourself in remembrance of the values and most important things that make one lead the family properly are really very important. And I just want to take a few seconds to just quickly touch on a few things that I mentioned in the previous conference. I gave a take home, which were four main pillars. And I was trying to insist that these four pillars are very important for every man to be intentional in their leadership in the family. One of the first I talked about was spiritual leadership. The second I talked about was financial leadership. The third I spoke about was cultural leadership. And the fourth I spoke about was worldview, how worldview is so important in our intentional leadership as men in the family. I just want to thank Dr. Madison for this great honor to be part of this conference this year. Last year was a great success, and I believe this session, as we start, is going to be excellent. I want to encourage you, wherever you are, wherever you're watching, try to be in the best position possible. Avoid any form of distraction. Give full attention and give full focus as we run around this session at this very moment. Just quickly, for those of you who don't know, I want to introduce myself. My name's Eyong Enoh. I'm a professional football player, and I've been playing for a long period of time, over 15 years at top level. I played at the Cameroon national team and also played at top clubs like Ajax. And again, I'm married to my lovely wife Bernadette, and we have 5 handsome boys. So I'm an addict. I'm a passionate family man, and that's why today's focus in this conference at this moment, we're going to be talking about the man and his family. It's about relentless pursuit. What does it mean to relentlessly pursue greatness? I mean, true greatness. Now, you can have greatness, but is it true? And I put it this way: until your greatness is true to your family, it is not yet valid. You can be great at your job. You can be great to the community. You can be great in the society. You can be great in many other things until your family validates you, until your family sees you as great. Then you would have failed in the most important thing in life that you were supposed to have demonstrated greatness towards. Talking about this, the man and his family. Of course, I'm a man, and everyone watching is also a man because this is a man-led conference. And there is just something unique about being a man. There's just sense of responsibility. There's this sense of wanting to pursue greatness in life. And there's no better objective and better goal like to pursue greatness as far as your family is concerned. Now, I'm going to touch on 2 specific aspects as far as the man and his family is concerned. The first aspect I want to touch is the man as a husband. Because you can't be a father until you're first a husband. So the man as a husband. And I'm just going to touch on a few points on concerning the man as a husband, which are very critical. And there are things that if you are here, probably you're a young man, you're not yet married, but you're a man, you're not yet a father. But these points, these teachings, these values, these precepts are going to be so instrumental to prepare you for the things that are coming ahead. And if you're already married, you're already a father, you're already a husband, we can always add value. We can always propel ourselves to be better, to do better, to be the best version of ourselves, to continue to grow, to continue to improve. And even if you have reached your maximum, there is still much more you can achieve. So don't think that you have attained it. Don't think that you've got in there. Don't think that you know it all. Just know that there's so much more to learn, to improve, and to grow. And sometimes the thing we think we have grasped, we only realize over time that we don't know it fully, and we need to work harder to improve in them. So the first point I want to touch on as far as the man as a husband is concerned, I'm going to touch on 5 very important values and points that help the man to be the kind of husband that he's supposed to be to his wife. And in this regard, when I'm talking about the man as a husband, it's a man as a husband to a woman. It's a man as a husband to a wife. In our definition, we are looking at God's divine standard of what it means to be a husband. It's to be a man married to a woman. So otherwise, it's not consistent. Okay, so let's get into the first point, which identifies, which every man as a husband must reverberate, must reiterate, and must put it as an important focus before him. And that point will be commitment. Commitment. What defines a man? What defines a man as a husband? One of the most important values that he must develop, he must cultivate, he must build up is going to be commitment. Now, you know, in our days, it's not always easy to find a man that is really committed in business, in job, in society, even in politics. Sometimes they say politicians, they say one thing and they do the other thing because they are not committed. Why? Because their words are not consistent with what they do. So as a husband, if you're going to be the husband that is going to pursue greatness and true greatness in your family, in your home, to your wife, then you have to be a man of commitment. So the first commitment is one, to your words, because your words is so important. Your word is so valuable. Your word must be your bond. Your word must be able to reflect your integrity and reflect your values, who you are. Make sure your words have value. When you open your mouth to say to your wife, I love you, let it go with commitment. The things you do along, that follows it. So commitment is so important because commitment means I'm going to give my all. If I put my hand on the plow, I go to the end. Commitment means I've decided this is the one woman I'm going to be with, and I'm not looking at nobody else. I'm not looking on the left or on the right. I'm committed to this woman. I'm committed to her good. I'm committed to her growth. I'm committed to her development. I'm committed to everything that is good about her. This is the way, as a husband, you can begin to pursue greatness towards your wife. Let's look at the second point, which I think is very important in terms of the husband pursuing greatness in his family to his wife. The second is faithfulness. Wow, how rare it is as well to find faithful men. Men that will say yes and mean it. Men whose words are they are very representative. Men that would decide that I am committed at a certain level, that I'm not going to back out. Faithful men are very rare. And when you find one, you have to hold on to it. As a husband, you have to cultivate this value. It is non-negotiable. You have to make up your mind. If you are already one, then you still have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of distortion. There's a lot of distraction. There are a lot of hurdles to stop you from being a faithful man. But through relentless pursuit, through determination and focus, you can be the hero to your wife. You can be that great man to your wife. Why? Because of the value of faithfulness. Faithfulness to your words. Faithfulness to task. Faithfulness to the home, faithfulness to issues, to projects, how you show that faithfulness to your job, to the things that you're passionate about. It is also very contagious. It rubs off on the wife. It rubs off on your environment. It rubs off all around you. Women or your wife will respect every husband that is faithful to their words, faithful to them, and faithful to the things that concerns them. I think that's a very important value and virtue that every man needs to cultivate. Let's look at the third one that every husband to his wife must cultivate. The third one is being considerate. And the word considerate is synonymous to empathy. Or as a husband, you have to be considerate. There is no way you are going to be a hero, you're going to be great to your wife without being considerate. Considerate means you're going to put her first. Considerate means you should be in a position to understand that you are there to make sure that she is first satisfied before you. I'll give you a quick example. For me, I've been a professional player for years, and the job I do can be very tiring, can be very fatiguing. Sometimes you come back from a game, the only thing you want to do is just to sleep. The only thing you want to do is to eat. The only thing you want to do is to rest and think about the next training. And if I would think only about my job, my career, my rest, and come back home to a wife who has spent the whole day with the children, spent the whole day cooking, and she's just looking for 1 minute, 2 minutes of my attention, it would be very inconsiderate of me to have given everything out on my job, and I come home and I have nothing to give her, which is to consider her. And I think in that way, you will never become a great man to your wife. You will never become a great husband. A man that after everything he has gone through during the day will come home and still make up his mind to be considerate to his wife. This is how you are pursuing relentlessly greatness towards your wife. She will look at you and see greatness in you and see greatness manifested through your consideration. And I think that's very, very important. I want us to look at one other point, the fourth one, that is also very important as husband, that we must cultivate, we must continue to practice it towards our wife, is to be a servant, is to serve. Oh, there's no way a man will serve his wife in many capacities, because you are to serve her. You are to serve her how? You are to serve her emotionally. You are to serve her physically. You are to serve her intellectually. You are to serve her physically. Look at the things she needs emotionally. You are to serve her in those aspects. There's no greater role, no greater responsibility that a husband has towards the wife, like being able to serve her in the areas of her need. This woman will never forget you. This woman will treasure you. This woman will honor you when she realizes that you are a great source of service to her. So as a husband, we must cultivate the attitude of serving our wives, serving them, looking at areas where they need to be served. And I'm not going to go into all the details because it's unique for everyone. You must understand the kind of wife that you have and the kind of service that she needs. And that's why in the previous conference, I touched a little bit on one of the very most important things as a husband. I said a husband has to be a master communicator. He has to develop the skills of communicating. And I also touched about that a husband should not just communicate with his wife to just to pass on information. His major purpose of communication is to connect with the wife. And to do that, you have to connect with her emotionally. To do that, you have to connect with her intellectually. To do that, you have to connect with her physically. Now, it is through those different levels of connection that you are able to serve her in the best way that she can receive it. Let's move forward. I'm going to touch on one other point as far as the husband pursuing greatness towards his wife. I want to talk on sacrifice. To be a husband that is pursuing true greatness in a relentless way in your home toward your wife, you would have to be a husband that does a lot of sacrifices. Sacrifice is what will set you apart. Sacrifice means you're going to do something to her that no other man is willing or ready to do. So if I ask you this question, I want to ask you now, every man listening to me, every man watching this video, can you say sincerely, you have been able to do something to your wife that no man has done for her? Can you count them? Can you enumerate them? Can you really, really look at yourself and say you have done something like that? If you haven't, then you have to start thinking about it. And if you can't even remember one thing that you have done that has been a huge sacrifice towards her, then I think you really better start thinking of something, because these are going to be the foundational reason for her to see you and value you as greatness in her life. All right. So far, I hope you're imbibing some of the things I'm sharing. And these are all points that is not just going to end here. I know sometimes it's easy to speak it out. Like they say, talk is cheap. But this is not just about talk. And I know that many of you probably listening to me now already have the knowledge of some of these things. Many of you listening or watching this video probably have made efforts to apply these things, or you're even teaching them. But one of the interesting thing about us men is that sometimes we have a lot of knowledge, but we put very little into practice. And the goal of this conference is not just to reverberate some of the things that we already know, is to challenge us to take actions, is to challenge us to become intentional, is to challenge us to see that becoming great to our spouse, to our wives, is a great pursuit that we must go after in order to leave a legacy for our wives, for our families, and for the generations that are to come. And as sometimes, as a husband, you don't know who is watching you. The kids are watching you. The neighbors are watching you. Your family is watching you. Your wife's family is watching you. There's a whole group of people looking at you. And this is where you are supposed to earn the most valuable greatness that men would never forget. You see, many a times the world celebrates people, but their families are not celebrating them. I'll give a quick example of myself. There was a time in my career where I was at the peak, doing so well, and everybody was praising me. Everybody was saying, Enoh, you're doing great. You're successful. You're in the national team. But at home, one time my wife spoke to me and said, I don't feel loved. And that shocked me. It troubled me. I was celebrated as a great man outside, but in my home, my wife didn't see me as a great man. If I were to stop there, I would have been a failure. Now, if you really want to know how great you are, you have to find it out from your home. Call your children, call your wife and ask them. Let them evaluate you. Let them assess you and tell you the truth about yourself. Then you're going to know the things you really need to focus on and the things you really need to work on. And so for me, that was a big eye opener. And I said to myself, I don't want to be a man that is great to people outside and to my own home. I am not great. I said to myself, I was going to intentionally pursue relentlessly greatness to my wife, greatness to my family, because that's the legacy I really want to leave. All right, I'm going to touch on the second part, which is the man as the father. The man as the father. Now, it is no news to anyone that being a father is one of the most challenging responsibility or role or position that any man can begin to operate. It is so challenging that in our time, a lot of men are afraid to get married. A lot of men are afraid to bear children. And one of the reasons that this is becoming more challenging is because of many other young men that have grown out of fatherless homes. Now, they grow up in a home without a father. They never received the right mentoring. They never received the right example, the right role model. And so the fear of acting the same way and the emptiness of certain things they were supposed to receive from the father, which they don't have, and that puts a fear of being in the role of a father. I was doing a quick research as far as fatherlessness is concerned, and I realized that in a country like South Africa, which is in the continent of Africa, the fatherless homes is over 60% of homes are fatherless. 10% of these fatherless homes, the reason where the fathers, this 10% was because of cases of disease, that the fathers died, they died. But 50% of fatherless homes, the reason was because of absent fathers, the lack of fathers in homes. And statistics has proven in the US and in many other countries that those who grow up from fatherless homes are likely in a high percentage to get involved into drugs, to get involved into crimes, to get involved into violence, to get involved into low level of education, to be less successful in life, to be unbalanced in their confidence, to lack identity, to lack value, to lack courage. They are lost in who they really are. Because one of the most important roles of a father is to give identity, to give confidence, and to give validation to the children. So I want to touch on a few points as far as being a father is concerned. Now, before I touch on that point, I want to bring one quick remark. Now, knowing that as a man with his family, the role of a father is not just to the children. The role of a father is also to your wife. Now, for those of you who know the traditional aspects of marriage, is that for a lady to live a family and be given to a man, it is the father that does that right, to take the woman and give to the man and say, I have given my daughter to you. Now, when that father gives the daughter to you, that this is my wife. What he is saying is that I have been her father from the time she was born until this age. I'm giving her to you so that you will continue in playing the role of a father in her life. Now, as a father, what every wife is looking up to, every one of the husband in the house, she is looking at the father in the husband. She's looking to receive everything she was getting from the father, from the husband. So a man in his family is not just playing the role of a father to the children, but is playing the role of a father to his wife. So don't count your wife out of fatherhood. She is also part of the person that you must be intentional and conscious about being a father too. So let's just touch some of those points quickly about what it means to be a father in the family. The first point I want to bring to your attention is what most people already know. It's called traditional roles. Now, everywhere you would listen, and probably you must have heard, or some of you know already, that the general responsibility of being a father is to be a protector, is to be a provider, is to be the one that leads the home, is to be the one that nurtures the family, is to be the one that takes care, the caretaker. So these are the traditional roles, but I want to touch a little bit on one or two points to add to some of these traditional roles already which the father plays in a home and in his family. The first of them I would touch is what you call order and structure. Now, I don't want you to forget this. You might know it, you might be practicing it already, but you might have never thought of the implication and the depth of that particular role that a father has in a family. And in this conference, we are triggering, we are reminding and putting a lead and putting emphasis on some of these critical things that we shouldn't take for granted. Never take for granted this point. As a father, you are the one to bring order and structure to your home. You are the one to bring order and structure to your family. I give a quick example of myself. I play professional football, so I travel a lot. And there are times when I've been out of the house and I call my wife. She's so stressed out. She's screaming, she's shouting. And my wife will say, speak to your boys. And oftentimes, once they hear my voice and they were playing around and not ready to go to bed, they will just respond. That's exactly what God has given to every man in his home. As a father, he's given him a certain level of authority, to bring order and to bring structure in his home. So I want to go to the next point quickly, which is the man as a father in his home is to give a sense of identity and vision. A sense of identity. If you are a father in the house and you are a lazy man, if you are a procrastinator, if you are someone that is using cursing words, you're not good with your words, you're always hesitating, you are unconsciously transferring and giving that sense of identity to the family. It's just like a train that is moving on a rail. And when you look at it, most of the time you see just the head. You don't see the whole cars behind. And every way the head of the train goes, all the other car follow suit. It's exactly the same thing. Know that as a father, whatever you do and how you do it, the family is following you. They are copying it. They are picking it. So if you want to be a father that is going to leave a legacy, that is going to pursue greatness in your home, then you would have to be a man that is living by example. You have to be a man who says something and does it. You have to be a man who sets his hand on a plow and make sure he's accomplished his task, and so that you're living that mark of greatness. The third one I want to say about one very important role of a man as a father in his home is that he's a nurturer. He is someone that will nurture everything around him. It's like a gardener that has a farm, and he's looking out for the seeds and for the trees or what he has planted, to water them, to weed out everything that is wrong, everything that would affect the proper growth. He's there to make sure that those plants are exposed to sunlight. So this is the role of a father. He's a nurturer. He sees potentials, he sees qualities, he sees dreams, and he helps to nurture them. So as a nurturer, you would have to make sure to be that great man, true great man in your home. You have to make sure that the dreams and the passions and the pursuits of your wife, they are nurtured. The dreams of your children, they are nurtured to fruition. Otherwise, you will be a celebrated greatness outside and a despised greatness in your own home. You don't want to be that kind of man. Again, don't forget the theme of this conference is relentless pursuit. Men that pursue true greatness. True greatness. And true greatness in your home is when, as a father, you begin to nurture those that are around you. Then you know you are really, really living a legacy of greatness in your family. I want to leave you all with 3 very important things I call pillars of a man and his family. There are many of them and there are many points, but we are not able to touch on all of them in such a short time that we have. So I'm going to touch just on 3 of them. And I want you to take them home with you and work on them and be the best version of yourself as a husband and as a father in your family. The first pillar that I want to leave with you, as far as being a man in your family, as a husband and as a father that pursues greatness, number 1 is courage. As a man in your home, as a man who is a father and a husband, you need a lot of courage. You know, most of us men, we are given a lot of things. You're giving advice, you're giving your time, you're giving your money, you're giving your energy, you're giving your presence to your family. And when you are in that place, that tough place where you need to also receive, the question is, where do you get it from? Where do you pull your strength from? Where do you get your own encouragement from? But God has put in every man who is in the family a unique ability called courage. And that courage is what will keep your head above the waters. That courage is what will help you carry on you what a boy, a man who is not in a family context, is not able to handle. Don't undermine and don't be unaware of the fact that there is courage inside you. Pull it every time, because you know what? You are a man who is on pursuit, and that pursuit is relentless for true greatness in your family. I want to give you the second point quickly. The second one is risk. A man who is in relentless pursuit for greatness in his family, relentless pursuit to leave a legacy. This man is a risk taker. It's a man that would go to uncharted waters. It's a man that will go hunting in the forest to look for game. It's a man that will go ahead of his family to survey the territory and make sure everything is in order before bringing his family to join it. This man is an inventor. This man is a strategic thinker. You have to be a risk taker. Why do you have to be a risk taker as a man who leads his family and who is as a father? Why? Because every decision you take affects a lot of things in the family. So you want to be one that takes risk. You want to be one that drives things. Otherwise, you're going to have a very static family. So the third point I want to give, as far as the husband and the father, the role of a man in these things are concerned, is that self-control is very important. We live in a time when there's so much information, there's so much distraction, and there are so many temptations. But what will make a man pursue relentlessly greatness, true greatness in his family, as a husband and as a father, is self-control. A man who is pursuing this thing should be a man that should never lay his finger or his hand on the wife. It's a man that will live above abuse. It's a man that will not use words, that will not use physical, neither any other thing to abuse his family, to abuse his wife. What will help him is self-control. It's a man that will continue to be faithful to his vows, to his declaration, to his words. When he goes out there and whatever he sees, he puts on self-control. It's a man, even in relation with other people, at job and in other things, he chooses restraint because he's a man of integrity. Self-control is one of the most vital things every man needs in this time that will keep him at bay and put him above the waters and make sure that he leaves a legacy of true greatness in his family. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll be joining you shortly in the Q&A session for any other questions you have. And I want again to thank Dr. Madison for this opportunity to be able to be a main speaker on this topic on the Lead Men Conference 2020 with theme Relentless Pursuit. Thanks for listening.